Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of Market Curry. I am Shikhar.
And I'm Rahul.
This time we're back with another episode with Pete Critchett, and he's been a mentor for us, and he's a fellow Husky. He's like an ultra super senior. He has a lot of years of
Old guy.
experience, and he did his MBA and MSF from Northeastern.
Yeah, and then he has a lot of experience in the field where he worked as a financial analyst at Bank of America, then Howard Management Company during the crisis, and then he entered into corporate FP&A.
Yeah, so he's been there for quite a
Quite a
quite a
long
lot
time.
of time. He's currently an FPM manager at Markham LLP,
Yeah.
right? So and he has a lot of good advice to give to current students and potential students, prospective students.
Yeah.
So let's just dive into the video.
Yeah, he has a good humor. You
Yeah,
can learn a lot
yeah,
from him.
yeah,
So yeah, let's dive into the video,
yeah,
know more
absolutely.
about his experience in the field.
Yes.
And yeah, that's it.
See you in the video. Cool.
How's it going? How do you feel working in Markham?
Oh, great. I love Markham's been awesome. I love working with the team. Great group of people. The office downtown is top notch.
Hmm.
And the organization as a whole is really good. I think our group is fully remote, so we don't do a lot of in-house or downtown type work. But anytime I get to go down there, it's great. I love being down there with the people and everything like that. So yeah, it's good. It's a really good company, really good company. And I have, gosh, I don't want to make myself sound old, but I got like 30 years of experience to tell you that it ain't like that in a lot of places, man. Like it's finances, offices can be very toxic, just a really bad environment. So to finally land in a place where, I really appreciate all the people that I'm working with, from the most junior to, the partners of the firm,
Hmm.
it's just, it's top notch all the way around. So it's been really good. Yeah, really good.
And how do you feel about Boston? I think the weather is too good right now.
I wish it would stop raining. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we've had enough rain. And it also seems like it's only raining on the weekends, So you work Monday
Oh,
to Friday
exactly.
and you try to go do something, on the weekend and nope, here comes the rain.
Yeah,
So I don't know what's going on with that.
I mean, we can't say how much we relate to that because
Yeah.
we have been seeing this. I mean, we've only been here for 9 months and we've been
Hmm.
seeing this every weekend since
Every
fall.
weekend.
Every
Yeah.
weekend it's been raining like cats and
Crazy.
dogs. We
Just
make
crazy.
plans and we make plans and we have to ditch them all into the grave because it's raining. So you live in downtown, you said? Or the office is of course in downtown, but do you live in downtown?
So I live in Watertown, which is
Oh,
Okay.
it's just west of Boston.
got
It's
it.
the last town where the sort of the grand architecture of Boston went all the way out to. So if you step out of my house, the Charles River is just a few feet from my house,
Oh,
and there's a path, and if you follow the path, it'll take you all the way down to the Esplanade and all the way into the city. So it's about a 9 mile bike ride. And so, yeah, so the sort of some of the central architecture in Watertown is connected to Boston. But after that, you're in the suburbs, Waltham and, Lexington and Arlington and places like that.
got
They're
it.
their own little, pockets. Yeah.
Makes
Yeah, I
sense.
think all the millionaires usually live near Charles.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not a millionaire, and I can't afford to live downtown. So you're not gonna catch me buying a, $1.2 million condo. I mean, my house is huge, so I'm fine right where I am. Thanks.
So, Pete, we talked about Markham and your current role, which is in FP&A. We just
Yeah,
wanted to trace it back to Northeastern
Yeah.
and how did you pivot from a non-finance bachelor's degree to an MBA
yeah,
and MSF, and then moving on to your roles in finance? How did you
yeah,
plan that out? On why did you think about pivoting into this role?
yeah. I mean, I came up through banking. I worked my way up I was a teller. I started off as a teller. Just counting money in and out the door, and moved into private wealth management, and then I moved into sort of a large corporate lending group, which at the time would have been for a bank very cutting edge, very risky portfolios because they were dealing with. You have to remember this is all sort of like dot-com era, pre the dot-com boom of like 2000, 1999, 2001, that era. So, these guys were, this group was doing bridge loans because the amount of money that a lot of the web hosting companies or the internet firms at the time were asking for were just astronomical, and no one bank could really handle, all of the loan amount. So they would do these bridge. They would do like, Bank of America would take half of it, and National would take another half of it, and they would do sort of like this loan together. As kind of interesting. And so I was on a team of analysts who we were in charge of, all of the not only the potential clients, but the loan clients as well. So we actually we built a contra fund of all the clients that we passed on. And then we had to track them. So if we had made a loan, would we have made money or lost money, right? And so we built this whole fund out of all the loans that we passed on the companies. And you guys, you may have been just kids at the time, but watching those companies just die, on the vine, it was incredible. So it was a real interesting time to be in banking, to be, I was right there at that moment. But I was definitely the junior at the time. I was the junior of the group. And so I would ask, I'd say, well, how did you become, how did you get to the role you're in? And, a lot of the guys, that I was working with, they would just be like, well, after our business school, ... Or, well, after I got my, I got my MBA, and then ... And I was like, oh, I see. Like, all of you have master's degrees and I don't. Interesting. And so I think that was really kind of what spurred me on to say, okay, I've gone as far as I can go, in this trajectory without, putting this degree in place. And I had been working for about 10 years at that point. So I was kind of old. I was like 32 at the time. And so I applied to Northeastern when I got in. And that was the start of it all, I guess, And I was just, at the time, Northeastern is not what it is today. It was not really considered. You went to Northeastern's program because you wanted their co-op. That was the big selling point, Oh, you don't have any experience? Go for the co-op. And I just went there because it was cheap, at the time. So I was like, I got to afford this on my own. So I just went there, and I was like, I walked in and I said, I don't need the co-op. So what else can I do? And so basically I walked out with 2 degrees instead of just 1. So, that worked out in my favor, I felt. So yeah, that's how I kind of came to Northeastern and did what I did there and met some great people. I was a terrible student, but I was definitely, I loved making all the contacts. I still, am in touch with a lot of my classmates, and just a good environment, a good learning environment overall. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty good program.
So how was your experience at Northeastern in terms of technical skills, and how did it really help you in shaping your career?
No technical skills to speak of. I came with all the technical skills, that I had. I don't think I learned, what are they teaching you guys, like R or Python or something like that? We didn't really have, that type of technical programs to be offered. I think there might have been like some like learn Excel or something like that. And I was like, I've already been using Excel for 10 years. So, who are you going to tell? No one's going to tell me how to use Excel at that point. So I was already doing financial modeling and everything. So I think there was like MATLAB or something.
Okay.
And I was like, nobody uses MATLAB in the real world. So I'm not going to even bother learning that, Basically, my whole point was like, my whole, thing was just like, I just want the degree. How little do I have to do to get my degree, So I was like I said, I was a terrible student, but I thought all the professors there were, freaking geniuses, and just sitting in and listening to some of them, what they said. I'll never forget, there's this one woman professor there, from India actually, and she was the marketing professor. And one day she was talking about statistics, and in like she basically like talked about statistics for like 5 minutes, and my jaw was on the floor because I was taking a statistics class and I had no clue what was going on in that class. And she saw me and she said, Mr. Krejcik, is there anything wrong? And I just remember telling her, I was just like, you just explained the statistics in a way that I now understand what statistics are, and I'm in a marketing class. And man, everybody in that class like broke out laughing. They thought it was the most hilarious thing they'd ever heard. So yeah, you never know where you're going to get your next bit of information from. I just thought it was such a great program, and again, like I picked up a lot from them. But I think more than anything, it was the network, it was the connections, it was the people that I met there that really, stayed with me for so much of my life. So yeah, I think the people they brought in were, you can say what you want about the program. I think the people they brought in were smart and just my speed. I really got along with a lot of them, so it was really good. It was really good.
You definitely agree on this because even we are classmates.
Yeah.
I really think that like Northeastern gets in a lot of good people, like really smart.
No, I can, even from working with you guys, and talking with you guys on LinkedIn, and I've been out to lunch with a couple of you guys, and it's just like, holy crap, you guys are going to take over the world, man. You guys are super smart. So, I mean, I'm waiting to go work for you guys at this point, so it's really great. I love to see, that caliber of student, I think the one area that I've just never seen them really, I would love them to step up their business savvy when it comes to, okay, you've got the classes on lock. You're bringing in the right caliber student. How do you transfer them? How do you flip them out of academia and then into that professional world? I think there's always just been, and it's not Northeastern itself, it's all colleges, all universities, I feel, struggle with this little, it's just like this one little, you just need this one key, right, to just get you over. And Northeastern is really good about co-ops and lining up stuff while you're in school, but it's that after school thing, right, where, like, I just feel like they haven't nailed that piece down. Whatever the secret sauce is, to helping you guys out, to just propelling you out of school and landing you, on your feet somewhere. It's kind of like, all right, kids, you're on your own. It's like, no, like that's, that doesn't help, and we have so many Northeastern grads in the greater Boston area that I just feel like it's one of those things they should be tapping into that a little bit more. And for whatever reason, it's just never happened. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, not to make you feel old, Pete, but but the time that you're talking about the dot-com bubble, I was 1 year old and he wasn't born yet.
There you go.
I mean, but what you just said right now is so relatable to us as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been there for a prolonged period of time, but right now, when in 2024, when we're searching for jobs or internships, we feel it's actually the same case. And because the concept is that you have to propel yourself, the university can only provide a limited amount of resources, and you have to create the networks and build the networks. But I feel that most of the people are lacking on the communication and networking part, and that's what's not enabling. What I feel personally, that's not what is enabling them to land a job.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel like, this is, I'm not trying to like hijack it in any way, or this isn't a criticism of them, but I also feel like, when you came to me, initially, I just felt like you were just so, I don't know, demoralized. You're just like, oh, you're not going to get a job, whatever. And I was just like, no way, man. Like, there's no way you're not getting a job. You're absolutely getting a job. Like, like I was just like, trying to beat you out of this like funk that you were in your head, because you had just like put yourself in this position where like, there's no jobs out there. I'll never get a job ever in my life. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's no way, like we need you. Like, we don't have enough of you. Like, please, like, and so, and of course, you got a job, like you got an internship, and that's just the way it is. But I do feel like there's a lot of students, school is already stressful enough. Now you also got to be thinking about getting a job on top of that. I mean, that's just a heavy load to put on anybody, to be trying to do two things at once. Man, that's tough. That's just tough. And so I do feel like, yes, whatever little bit the school is doing, I just feel like it could be also moral support, right? Sort of an intrinsic value to what they are there to do, to support you guys and to sort of get you out of that. If you get stuck in that rut, and you feel like, oh, it's never going to happen, they have to be putting examples in front of you of like, no, it's absolutely going to happen. 100% of you are going to get a job, and I think some people are also, there is a misperception from the students' side too, that whatever the job is that they get, it's like the only job they're ever going to have, or like it's got to be the perfect job. And I'm like, get rid of that nonsense, because like take whatever job you get and then just build, right? Jump to the next job and jump to the next job and jump to the next job. Like you're going to be moving around in your career, and so it's just sort of like get the experience at this age. Don't worry about the highfalutin salary. It's coming. I promise you. You're going to be making plenty of money, by the time you need it, so you guys are on the right track. I just felt like I met so many of you guys, in the past few months, and it was just like, oh, I'm never going to get, there was one student who was like, I'm going to be a CFO. And I was just like, all right, I like your attitude, but a lot of people, a lot of the other students that I've met so far, they've just been like, oh, I'm so stressed and it's so much. And, I don't think I can get a job and I have to go home. And it's like, no. Don't think like that. That's not going to happen at all.
That's very valuable. That reminds me of my time when I spoke to Pete. I mean, he said the exact same things. He did.
And I would say as you get your jobs or your internships, it is sort of a situation where you pay it forward, right? Like you have to, even if it's not true at the very moment, right? You have to turn around and tell the next group of students that are coming in, like, hey, buddy, it's going to be all right. Like, you're going to get a job. You have to give them that. You have to lend them that energy, because a lot of them, they're just such low energy at that point. They're just beaten down. They're frustrated with their classes. They got tests to study for. They don't think they're going to do well. And like, now you have to now they're thinking about a job too. It's just too much. And you got to come in there. You just got to lend them some energy and just be like, you got this, and it means a lot. It really does. It really does.
I think the best way to suggest them would be to just make them contact to you.
Yeah.
I think you have such a positive attitude.
Me? Oh, me? Yeah. Oh, geez.
No, but definitely we'll drop in the LinkedIn, your LinkedIn in the description, and then you can, anybody who's viewing who is feeling demoralized, they can reach out to Pete, and he'll give you a beautiful pep talk, and you'll be energized for the rest of the year.
Just a small tip for whoever is reaching out to Pete: just be very positive. Pete doesn't like people who have a negative attitude.
It's not that I don't like them. It's just that they, like they don't even know they have it,
Exactly.
Like they don't even know. And it's just, when you talk to someone, you immediately sense it, I mean, like, I know you guys aren't negative, but when I first met you, right? I mean, you were just you were nervous, you were down on the situation, and like after one conversation, you were just like, "Oh my God, this is great," and turning that around, right? So
I agree.
You have to become this like turnaround specialist almost, just helping the students to see that it's not over. You're not, we're not shipping you off. There's a job for you, like just, you got to be patient. It's coming. But yeah. So
you are such a good manager.
Well, you have to see that if you ever work for me, you'll have to see how good of a manager I am.
We hope we can work for you.
Is that a threat, or is that
No, I don't know. Hey,
That's amazing. Yeah. So talking about manager, how did you so you worked as an investment analyst, and then you started working as a financial analyst. How was that shift for you, and what skills were overlapping?
So, I mean, when I came up, there wasn't much more than Excel to learn. Like, if you knew Microsoft Excel, you were, a god amongst men. And unfortunately, it's still pretty much that way. Like, everybody, I mean, the dirty little secret in all of FP&A is how fast are you dumping out data from this $1 million ERP? How fast are you dumping out to Excel and then just building? And there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, a lot of the data warehousing platforms that are out there, your SAPs, your Oracles, that's all great. You know, your NetSuites, that's all great for housing the accounting data, the ledgers and all that kind of stuff. But once you start talking about, well, you know, how do you compare quarter to quarter? How do you compare last year to this year? What's our forecasting? You know, you can have, you know, an Oracle consultant come in and for $100,000 build out a couple of canned reports. But, you know, 6 months down the road, when the CFO or the CEO goes, you know, I'd really like to see this other report, you're screwed. Because what are you going to do? Go back to get that guy again to come build you another one? No one trained you on the how to build a report in the ERP. So, you know, you've just been using that stupid old report that you got out of the ERP. So everybody just dumps out of Excel and everybody builds in Excel because it's so utilitarian, it's so versatile. You know, and some companies I know, even in the startup phase, they don't even buy Excel anymore. They just go right to Google Sheets, believe it or not. It's cheap and it pretty much does the same thing that, you know, you can do in Excel. So, and they both have their strengths, Google Sheets versus Microsoft Excel. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. But, you know, like all those other ERPs, honestly, like you're not going to get exposure to them until you get in to, you know, your company and you start using them there. A lot of people will ask, like, do you have experience in this or that or whatever? You know, I mean, it's really not that important that you have the experience going in. If you do, you're probably being considered for a more senior role, but they should not be expecting juniors to have any experience in, you know, do you know how to use SmartView? Nobody knows how to use SmartView until you've actually worked in it a little bit, you know? There's just not enough training going around for that kind of stuff. So yeah, you know, you kind of fake it till you make it. You learn a lot of stuff on the job, and that's kind of what your role is at the very beginning, is to start learning some of these tools to the point where you can then walk into, you know, almost any, you know, finance shop and go, yeah, I know how to use that. Yeah, I know how to use that. Once you find yourself in that stage of your career, you know, you're pretty good. But I would say the base has always been, and probably, you know, for the rest of my career will probably be Excel. I'm sorry if that frustrates anybody out there listening to this, but like, you know, yeah, Excel has pretty much made my career what it is, to the point now where I just created 5 different Excel courses for Markham that they're going to roll out nationally, and I'm going to teach it. So you know, again, like that's how important it is as a tool, like that they actually want courses, you know, in their infrastructure or their intranet, you know, to offer to, you know, their staff. So, you know, I'm not being asked to, like, you know, show them how to use NetSuite or Sbase or, you know, TM1 or any of that stuff, which would all be valuable as well. But no, they all want Excel. So it's like, all right, let's do it. So yeah.
Can we get the links to the courses if you want?
Well, let me test them out, kick them around a little bit.
We need to get a job in Markham before. So can you...
There you go.
Sweet. I mean, I just have another question regarding your role as a performance analyst in Howard Management Company. So during that time, do you remember Professor Apurva Koticha? He was the CEO of Howard Management Company, if I'm not wrong, during that time.
He was.
I think
there was a couple. Yeah, there was a couple that sort of went through. Yeah, and he was for a brief moment, I believe, and then they handed it off to a woman.
Yeah. I think he was the director of head of fixed income.
Yes, fixed income. Yes.
Yes.
So unfortunately, he sat on the other floor. I did not have time. I didn't get a real chance to interact with him very much. So, yeah, he was, but he was really, I remember having a lot of respect for his work and what he was doing, you know, at the firm, at the time. And, I know he's gone off to do some really good stuff elsewhere. I think the more, I thought you were going to go in a different direction with this question, but because that was when the real estate bubble
that
burst.
was my next question. My next question. So
Man, woo! If you ever want to see a case study in crisis management, I got to tell you, man, that time period was just crazy. Talk about a bunch of closed doors in offices. Like nobody was coming out of their office. You know,
Exactly.
it was just nutso. And I mean, the endowment was what? Harvard endowment was like 44 billion at the time, and I think it lost like half.
Yes.
And when you're highly leveraged, and you got to try to get some cash to make your payments, you start selling things at 10 cents on the dollar, boy. And I'm telling you, like, there was fire sales going on,
Absolutely.
And the problem with that is that like panic sets in, and people get very scared for themselves. And the team structure begins to break down a little bit. I remember my manager crying, and just apologizing profusely that, that we all knew we were getting fired, but I think the reality, what was ironic is that, like, yeah, there was definitely going to have to be, like, the universities come and calling, like, hey, what the hell's going on, right? And so to show that, we're being responsible, we're tightening our belt, the first thing you do is you just lay off a bunch of people, So they must have canned, like, they perp walked a bunch of the fund managers right out the door.
Yep.
Then they probably canned like 30% of the staff, 35% of the staff. And what's funny is, like, you can do that, but you have to understand that's all cosmetic, because the engine still needs all those people to make it run.
Yep.
Right? And so, like, if my report, so I was in charge of reporting, if my reports, all of my reports, I would walk them into the CFO's office every day, right? So imagine a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, she's not getting that report no more, right? 3 weeks go by, right? And now people asking her about performance, and there's no report, right? Maybe 5-6 weeks in, now we got to have that report. Somebody's got to do that report. All of a sudden, you got to start hiring people back. So it's just like this knee-jerk reaction of, like, yeah, we have to show that, we're being fiscally responsible. We're going to lay off a bunch of people, but it did like that, like the whole economy did like that. And I think even that just shows that even in the, you're talking about Harvard Management Company, some brilliant minds, I mean, I was the slow kid, compared to who I was working with. I was working with some just geniuses, doesn't matter, in that crisis management situation where, just the floor has dropped out and people are just running, like everything's on fire, you're just watching, you just look around. And if you can maintain that calmness, in the middle of all that, and you can, be an observer, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic lesson in just crisis management and watching all of it sort of, happen. And look, I mean, the economy bounced back, and, everybody still has, to this day, everybody got a job, and we didn't lose, like, it wasn't like we had this many finance people and then we had a crisis and now we only have this many finance people. No, we have just as many. We didn't lose any, so, I just think that, had they been a little smarter about it, they probably could have weathered that storm a little differently, but they were outside pressures, man. It's just the outside pressures coming down on them, and they're being told, hey, you got to do something about this.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, I mean, it was top down, and I mean, it just shows that how we react in crisis situations. And I mean, it was a V-shaped recovery for the market, but I mean, the first instinct of companies, what I feel is nowadays, is just fire people.
Yeah,
that's what they do. So
it's even worse now, because now they just see shedding of the payroll as an answer to missing their, their goal, so, you didn't meet the markets, you didn't meet the street's expectation, 30% layoff, just get rid of people. It's like, oh, everything's better now. It's like, no, it's not. You still have the issue inside the company. You're still not making any money. You just did this perfunctory, thing of lopping off a bunch of people's, heads, and it's like that's the dumbest thing you can do. In fact, you lose any credibility you would have with your employees at that point, because the ones you didn't fire, they're looking at what you just did going, oh, that's me next time, you know? So you just don't garner any trust by doing that. You're not sticking by your people. And that used to be the way this country was run. You know, companies did stick by their employees. And these days we're just expendable, you know, in a lot of cases. It's a sad state of, you know, corporate sort of, I'd say, what, you know, post-capitalistic corporate mentality, you know? So, what can you do?
I mean, I'm sure it would have been a great learning experience during, I mean, you were there for an exact year during the crisis,
Yeah.
easy 08 and 09.
Oh, yeah.
I remember. So, if you don't know, Professor Koticha is our professor for fixed income. So I took a class under him in.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Oh,
So,
that's great.
yeah, he just told us during one of his classes that his department, like the fixed income department, was the only
one.
Only
Only
profitable
one. Yep.
department. Yeah, it was the only profitable department in the entire of HMC, and he actually had the highest grossing year in that year. So he made a lot of money for the company.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
that
he
was
did
just
really well.
genius. That was just genius.
Yeah.
I mean that those were the questions from my side. I think if there's anything from Rahul's end.
No, I was just gonna say that it's really great to have a professor like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
all of our professors are really good, but to
Yeah.
have someone who has sustained the times of financial crisis is even better.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It just gives you a
100%
really good
agree
idea.
with that. 100% agree with that. And, you know, he had a positive story, but, you know, you should ask him, you know, say, well, you know, it's great to have a wonderful story like that coming in a moment of crisis, but ask him about, you know, some of his colleagues, you know, and what happened to them and where they are, you know, or what happened to those, you know, asset classes that, you know, didn't perform, you know, as well as his, you know, fixed income, you know, obviously is going to can perform, not always, but can perform better in a down market, you know, like that, or a shock market like that, where it just craters, right? Everybody flees, you know, to stability, and, you know, like, oh my God, gold's amazing. It's like, no, gold's not amazing. You know, it's just, that's where everybody flees, you know, when, you know, the risk starts to go crazy, and there's so much volatility in the market and fear in the market. You know, people are going to always flee to, you know, that safer, you know, asset class. But like, you don't want to be parked in gold for very long. That's dumb, you know, like.
Yeah, diversification, risk management. That's what we've been learning in quant finance.
But you have to understand the asset allocation of the portfolio at the time at HMC, they were buying like timber in Russia. It's the most illiquid thing in the world. You bought a forest? Like, how are you supposed to get your money out of that? You know? So like, you got to sell that. You got to sell that for whatever you can get. If somebody's going to give you 10 cents on the dollar, you taking 10 cents on the dollar. I don't care. You know, like, it's just that's all they could do. Meanwhile, you know, Professor Mutchuk is sitting on, you know, hey, I got treasuries. Who wants my treasuries? You know, like, yeah, of course he made money, you know, like, that's not hard. That's not hard to do. Tell him, like, he wants to impress me, you know, like, let me see him do that in a boom market, right? Like, when things are going crazy, right? And that's when, like, I'd be like, okay, you made money in the fixed market during, you know, a boom cycle. Like, okay, that's impressive.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that would be like barely medium returns. That won't be like what you can get from equity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have one question. As a manager at Markham, like, okay, as a manager in FP&A, what would you like seeing on a candidate's resume?
Well, you know, I've looked at, probably at this point in my career, thousands of resumes. You know, again, I would say there's I love catching the bullshit, you know. Like, I don't know if you guys ever, I mean, I've helped out some of you guys. I don't know if anybody's spoken about how I've helped with some of you guys' resumes, but I love when I see all this like padding going on, and like, this person's done Excel and then advanced pivot tables and this, that, and I'm like, okay, so you have Excel experience, like, that's cool, you know, but like, you only need to say that once, you know, like, I mean, it's like, but you like, I love seeing how, like, you know, you try to make your resume real plump, like real like appetizing. And so I love seeing that. I love figuring out that mentality. But honestly, like some of the best resumes have been very simple for me. Very simple skills. I see a progression. I'm looking for someone who, okay, if you want to work in FP&A, do you have any experience in your background that's showing me that like you worked on budgeting and reporting in the past? You've shown reports. You've built reports for the CFO, or you've done performance reporting or something like that. So I look for something that I can begin to connect with that person, on myself. So I do look for that personal connection where, like, oh, I did that. Oh, he did that too, or she did that too. Like, that's really great. Like, oh, cool. Like I know where this person comes from. And I think it's just a matter of trying to almost build trust in this person before I even meet them.
Yep.
Like, do I trust them already? Does their resume give me that trust? And I don't mind, a little padding here or there. I get it. We all did it, so that's cool. Like I respect it, in a way. But like, I think the most important thing for me is like trying to figure this person out even before, like, how much does your resume, if your resume doesn't tell me anything about you, it's hard, I can't vibe with you, I can't figure out who you are ahead of time, I love finding out like, oh, this person loves, the cricket, or this person loves badminton, or this person loves, camping or whatever. Like, I begin to build this person out in my head, about who they are and what their motivations are, and then I figure out how I can work with them. So there's a lot of thought that can go into that, a lot of times when you're looking at a resume. I'm less impressed by like, oh yeah, you worked on some highfalutin fund. Great. That's fine. I don't know if you can do that for me though. I don't know if you can meet my expectations, and the pressures that come with this particular job, in this particular team. So, it's just a more matter of like, okay, do they have some experience that, I can, gel with? And that's kind of more important for me a lot of times. Yeah. Yeah.
Sweet, great. Thanks a lot for this.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I would just like to say that Pete is so kind that he created a group of around 12 people from Northeastern. Whoever reached out to him, he created a group called the NEU Men and Women in Blue, because so many people reached out. He wanted to build a cricket team, and
I built a cricket team.
Yes.
I built a cricket team. It was
He
amazing.
he only specifically took 11 members in that particular group because he wants to make a team.
I'm happy to be a substitute.
We're getting those jerseys, boys. I'm telling you, we're getting those jerseys.
Let's go. I think that's it from our end, right?
That's it from us.
I mean, it was a beautiful conversation.
Oh, thank you so much.
It was very fun. I had a lot of fun. I was very informative as well.
Yeah, I'm sure the audience, whoever is watching,
They love it.
They would love it,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they'll reach out to you because people are coming in. The next semester is coming in, and
Yeah.
they'll be looking forward to have these conversations.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, again, anything I can do to help you guys, I'm there. And just even if you just needed somebody to talk to for a little bit, or you just have questions, I always make myself available to you guys. So, thanks for doing this. It was really fun. And if I can help in the future, just let me know.
For sure. We'll call you for episode 2.
That's right. Definitely.
All right, thanks, Pete.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Good night.